7:03.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mike Volpone.
Riley C. Celine Muldowney. Alicia Bethel.
And Mark Sims.
And David Brohl walks in the door.
Before what's the door? Sorry, my phone died.
It's all that slide. That you're hitting the store before.
So frustrating.
Previous minutes. I don't know if everybody had a chance to go through it. I've got a copy right here. I did not see anything. Maybe wants to.
I didn't see anything. No.
Any questions? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye. All opposed? Passes. Usually helps when you guys actually respond, so. Correspondence, bills and claims. You got anything?
No, I double checked the bill from the last meeting, there was that $660 payment
Yeah.
had been paid the payment before.
All right, so we're all set.
So I paid 2 bills last week that you guys saw at the last meeting, it was
Mhm.
DiFilippo and Mello.
Yep.
And then I didn't check again this week, I figured I'd wait for the next meeting.
Okay.
So it should be pretty current.
All right, so no bills and claims. Any other correspondence from anybody? I do have. Jason DeRoche was not able to make tonight's meeting about Triton Youth Soccer, and he left me a litany of, he left the committee several questions he was looking for answers for.
Sorry.
Did anybody else see it, read it, check it out?
It's the same one that we had, that he sent earlier.
I think it looks like it was a new, it was a
Similar.
little different. So
Similar.
similar,
Oh, okay.
so,
And I did reach out to ask him more questions,
Yeah.
just regarding what he had here, so looking for dates, asking him, just, I mean, we can go ahead,
yeah.
and then as it comes up,
I mean, I didn't have this under the agenda for today, but it falls under the correspondence piece, so if we want to vote on anything, but at least just any questions. Is an hourly rate that considered youth sports to be $7 per hour per field? That was what was proposed, it hasn't been finalized yet. With the fields defined as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then A and B, are those decreased to 3.5 an hour? Yes, they are. Is the outer boundaries areas outside the playing fields included in the hourly rate, or is that free for usage, is available and not being used? I don't think it's an issue. I don't know how much outside the boundary area you guys are using. If it's just to kind of warm up some kids and do something before they go in, that's fine. If you're gonna run a practice on the sideline, then we need to talk.
I think one thing that we talked about last week, that we had discussed whether or not that would go into the, whatever we come up with for a committee
Yeah.
or a policy, that we had to decide whether or not open fields, if you go onto the calendar and you find that there's an open field, can someone go and use that open field? Whether it's a group of people, whether it's an organized group of people, if that isn't being used, is that within
Yes.
someone's right to go and use it?
Yeah.
So I think that answers that question. Is that free for the usage?
Yes, Mark.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time to answer those questions.
We're gonna do it because it's the only place I can put it in the calendar right now, because it's a correspondence.
We're gonna
I
have to be able
can't-
to answer them all now.
Yeah.
No, I'm not asking to answer them all. These are questions that said, people have any feedback, great, we'll go through it quick, and after that, we're fine.
But
It's good, we gotta,
we have correspondence from him that, and some of this is, how does everything, as we were saying before, how
so
does
you're saying you
everything-
wanna ignore this?
That's not what I said. Can we have it part of the fee schedule conversation?
Well, that's not, all the questions are not all related to the fee schedule.
So maybe as we go through the questions, we can say, okay.
I just don't wanna ignore it, I wanna make sure I'm answering his question.
But, okay. We can you help us out here? Because I hear what you're trying to do, Mike, and I'm not disagreeing with acknowledging the correspondence, but I didn't think we'd come in here to answer all those questions right now.
It's a discussion, that's all it is, we're not ruling on it because all it is a correspondence. I'm not
Okay.
responding back to them, I'm not going back to that point, other than just make sure if we have any questions.
Yeah,
If-
you can just read it. Right?
Yeah, that's, I was just going down through it. If anybody's got any feedback, great, and then we can figure out, based on this, at the next meeting, we can respond back to them, but at least get us an idea.
Right.
Everybody got a chance to go through it, because I don't want to take too much time, but I just wanna make sure we're addressing his questions, because they seem valid. Is the fee cap for Triton Youth TYSA no more than a fee paid for the average of last 4 seasons? That hasn't been decided upon yet.
How can we do that? Because this has been.
It'll be 2 different formats.
Yeah.
Is TYSA expected to pay more if the actual hours used to remain the same? Again, it hasn't been finalized yet. Is the Newbury Rec Committee still willing to lock in an hourly structure and a rate for 3, 5, or 7 years? I think the original discussion was 2 or 3. If TYSA signs commitment, I mean, it doesn't matter if they sign it or not. We wanna look at what's best for the groups that are here. 2, 3 years was enough to give an idea saying, let's try this before we just dump it. And then 2, we don't wanna go too far because what happens if the rates go, we can go increase or reduce the rates. If things change in their structure of the different groups, we wanna make sure we're covering it. If the expected fee for TYSA is $4,000, let's say, for the estimated hourly usage of the requested fields, when and how much do you want TYSA to pay? The original discussion, again, please correct me as I go along here, was a portion up front and the balance once the determination of the hours that they were gonna use.
I think we're still looking at how.
Yeah, I mean, it's still up there, but that was the initial. I mean, then he gets in, do you want a front, do you want a balance, they're talking about refunds, hasn't been mentioned yet, hasn't been finalized yet. Will the fee be adjusted for fields closure? I don't think so. Will the fee be adjusted due to daylight savings time in the fall? No, because you need to kind of structure your hours accordingly. If you think you're only gonna be there, if you've got lights, that means you probably can go longer, because it's their lights, and that's what Jason had said, that was Triton New Stockholm's lights that we're using at the last meeting. Stefan?
The lights is not good enough for kids to practice. It's just provides something for kids to get out of there safely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, then you guys can schedule what you need to accordingly.
Yeah, we don't have lights, so,
We shouldn't be renting the fields
Yeah.
at the start.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly, so this is come
But
fall.
I think the question there, or the problem there, is that at the beginning of September or the middle of
It's
August,
still-
when practices start, you can go until 8 o'clock at
Right.
night. So they're renting the fields for that period of time, but then that would change come,
7 o'clock.
Then
September.
just noted that saying, as of, from here to here, we're gonna use it to this time. From here to the end of the season, we're only gonna use it this time, and we'll adjust the numbers, it's based on hourly use
Yeah, it's
anyway.
hourly usage, so it's.
and I think that's what he was
But-
asking, will the fee be adjusted for,
Yeah.
or,
I think
If they choose to.
some of the questions flip-flop back and forth between an hourly,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's part of the thing we need to kind of figure out.
Yes. I think these are all questions that need to be part of our conversation as we continue to go through, as opposed to just simply answering them right now or giving an opinion
We're-
right now.
The opinion, I don't think is a problem. We gotta do something with this.
yeah, I'm glad that.
We've acknowledged that we have it, we all have received a copy of it from him.
All right, well then let's do this. I want everybody's feedback for the next meeting.
Yeah, we can do that.
We're meeting in 2 weeks. I want feedback for the meeting, and I want it before, please, just so we can make sure this doesn't get answered, because this, again, this is twice. I don't wanna go back a third time. That's not fair to Jason.
No, it's not. But some of this, as we go through the rest of these policies, are gonna be influenced by this.
That's fine.
Okay.
It still has to go in front of the Board of Selectmen, so.
Once, whatever we decide, we
Yeah.
submit. We've already gone down, we voted
Yeah.
on an hourly. Now it's a question of how do we do the hourly?
Yeah.
And then present to the
And,
board.
yeah,
Yeah, so I don't think you can answer those questions until the board of selectmen votes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
But at least, I mean, based on what we're doing, this is the plan, and I want to at least know what's going on. I don't want to ignore it, that's my biggest
no,
concern.
I think as we're developing a plan, that these are the questions that we should be addressing in
And
that
it goes for
plan.
you guys
as
too.
we go.
Exactly, exactly.
And you guys realize this goes to you too, we're not, I'm just, Jason's the one that responded. So, I want to make sure we're responding to you guys and answering your questions. Old business, basketball court at Central Street, the planning. So I put together a meeting, at the last meeting, I put together a document for a basic one-page proposal. I asked everybody to give me their feedback, as I am more than open to it. But it was a basic draft. If anybody has got some feedback, please let me know.
Well, I think we wanted to we address all the numbers?
And that's what David was gonna look at.
I called the guy, I mean, I emailed the guy and then called the guy, and they got back.
He hasn't got back to it.
But again, the structure, what they were talking about, high-end stuff, like everything, was around $150,000 just because it's a municipality. It would be less if it wasn't. And then that's the concrete, they have a square, like a thing that fits over the concrete so water goes underneath. It's like the high-end thing, high-end hoops boat. So it would be a lot less, but I just get solid numbers for him to go, so.
I just, when we originally started this, to discuss this a couple years ago, we had heard West Newbury was
70 grand.
7 grand, and I laughed, I was like, are you kidding me? There's no way in the world. And he just doubled it. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Again, that's,
The high end and stuff
Yeah.
versus.
Yeah. and so what I did was I faxed him and called, and I said, give me a price for basic asphalt. And again, he was talking about hoops, and so, you know, I was thinking, we looked at hoops and they're like $1,000 a piece, and then he goes, well, you know, you can spend a lot more money. Normally we do 2 good hoops, and I'm thinking to myself, we should just do average stuff to start.
Just get it out there. I mean, I don't want metal that you're sitting, but I mean,
Yeah.
half decent, because this
Yep.
is,
Middle of the road type thing.
the investment we're putting in this is supposed to be for the ability to have tournaments and do other things and have it like a host site, so we
And
don't
yet-
want it to be, but we also can't go crazy, because the town will.
And again,
sir.
if it comes down to it, we could go the route you were talking about, go in front of the board or the planning board, whoever wants to listen to
Capital
us.
planning,
Yeah.
Yeah, and say, you know, the cost that we estimate to have the basketball hoop is 80 grand. But if we can get it done the way Tracy was talking about it, if we get donations, all that stuff cuts down the cost. And so we may get allocated the $80,000, but we don't have to use it because we already have money set aside by certain groups. And then the town, in the end result, may end up putting out like 40 grand or something like that, which is what the idea would be.
and it comes out of your revolving fund, right?
Yes.
Right.
We're trying.
Yeah, you're doing a good job.
So for the next meeting, let's, you can find out from him, if not, anybody has any other feedback on the document? You were talking about the donations
I
before.
did give Johnson Paving a call, and his wife Sherry did get back to me, but she said that she wanted her husband to go through the numbers and that he would get back to me.
And did we decide if we need a retaining wall?
I don't know if we'll contract.
There's definitely gonna be, either on one side or the other, because it drops off.
Well, the Board of Selectmen just voted last night to accept a gift from TW Excavating for rocks for a retaining wall down there.
That's different, that's the stuff that,
Yeah, it was
the
Alex'
rec-
question.
Yeah, that's
What's
for the
that for?
DPW, that's for the, going towards the garage part of the field house. They're on the right-hand side, they're redoing the wall, they're out there today.
Ah.
Putting that retaining wall in. What the idea is, because there's a pitch of, what would you say, David, 5 degrees?
Yeah, over 60 feet, I would say it drops, it drops from the fields to that
Is that where
dirt
the
side.
kids were sledding down
No,
there?
no, 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 no.
Towards
It's
the
after the
septic
field
tank.
house, after the field
Okay.
house.
Yeah,
And so on that field right there, there was an old, or not old, there is the,
The road that goes
No.
behind it?
well, there's the road, but if you look at some of the maps, like the maps from above, you'll see where there's sort of some marking where there's the septic line that goes from the building.
This area,
Okay.
here's where they should be parking, here's the.
And so it drops, it starts
Oh,
at
okay.
a certain grade, and
I
then
see.
as it goes towards the parking lot or that road,
Yeah.
where it drops down, I would say 3 feet,
Okay.
maybe less. What do we think? Was it like 3 feet?
It was enough that either it's a really long slope, which would,
Cost
which
probably
could
more
work
than
to
asphalt.
grade
Yeah.
and mow, or have it drop down and put a short retaining wall there, so that it's a very clear boundary.
TW Excavating went to donate the second one.
I don't know if maybe they may have some leftovers.
Always ask. First
You
thing
know,
to say is no.
I think what it comes down to is like someone that, a septic company or something like that that has, when they dig out, or even a foundation guys, when they dig out and they have that, solid material that they have to get rid of,
Right.
solid fill, that kind of thing, but I don't know how the town does things. I know, no, I'm not even going there.
So we need to incorporate that into the
Okay.
whole process.
Yeah, because we looked into it, I made some phone calls before, and I got quoted a price around $20,000 to level it.
Mhm.
That was the material to actually, that's before we've been putting on, the asphalt or doing anything like that. Because the cost of fill,
Mhm.
and then,
Great.
and I think it's actually gone up, supposedly some of the sand costs have gone up since the whole tariff thing,
Yeah,
so,
okay.
So the question goes back to the document that we have. We need to put together a document for the capital planning committee to explain our reasoning. So once we get an idea for pricing, or we can just take the numbers we had, bump them up a little bit so we're covering ourselves.
Yeah.
The basing of what it is. Do we know when capital planning is meeting? It was November something?
November.
Ballpark.
I
I'm
can
just
look.
saying, is it early, late?
They'll
I'm guessing
meet a
probably
couple-
somewhere around the 12th, 11th, 12th, somewhere there.
They'll meet a couple of times.
Okay, I just wanna make sure we can get in and, cause we're meeting on the 25th next, so less than 2 weeks, a little more than 2 weeks.
So what do we need to know for that meeting?
We need to have we need to get an idea,
Yeah,
hopefully that guy will come back
Yeah.
and get us a number,
Okay.
because I wanna take that number and see if we get some kind of a breakdown, what it is based on the numbers that I did. Cause I took those from what Celine had, so I'm just kinda
There's
Mm-hmm.
redid it.
some form from capital planning, there's a form to fill out,
There is, if there is, I'll be more than happy, I didn't know there was.
so it must be online.
It's not money.
Okay,
Okay,
I
so,
will, I'll go with it.
okay. And then for the fill and the retaining wall, do we need to know that information before?
Before we submit it, yes.
yeah, so there'll be fill, there's a retaining wall.
Yeah.
When I sent out the email request for an estimate on the asphalt basic from this is a professional company that does it. I did not ask for a price on fencing, because I think
I
didn't
did
even know a
fencing.
price for like $2,000, something like that at one
Yeah,
point.
I called 3 fencing
Yeah.
companies, and that's where I got my,
Yeah, so I knew that we'd already have that
And
covered.
that was 4, and then 100 feet along, and then 4 feet, like, in, just to kind of cover the ends a little bit, so. Hoping to try to keep the walls from going in this, up to the road.
So do we have someone who's going to get a cost for the fill and for the retaining wall?
I can do that.
Okay.
So if we can do that for next week, I'll have mine as well, and at least get the form and get it taken care of. All right, now on to the documents. First one is the town policy process. This is the one that Mariah was very nice to edit and give us her feedback.
policy process.
Policy and procedure.
Policy and procedure?
Oh, yes.
And then there's also a cost recovery policy and fee proposal, too.
So I went through that one, and I
Okay,
think
when you say that.
Which one we're going?
the first one, the policy and procedure,
This one.
Policy and procedure, the Central Fieldhouse.
This one?
yeah.
Okay.
So there, just before we comment on content, I see what you were saying about the formatting. And I went back to our field policy and procedure, how that was
Yeah.
formatted. And I kind of came up with this. A is the field house, B
Yeah.
is the reservation process, C is the rules and regs. And
So like
then
an
under
index.
field house, there's the bathrooms, community space, and then the concession area. So it was just kind of a whole outline formatting, does that make sense?
Okay.
A touch screen too.
Yeah. Try this one, this one.
Content-wise, we're gonna go section by section?
I'm just getting that change.
Okay.
Or did you wanna just
Can we do the
see a
formatting?
picture of it?
Yeah.
I'll have to find out when the capital planning committee is meeting in November. It's not on this calendar.
They haven't put it, they haven't posted it up yet?
Hmm?
They haven't put it on the calendar yet? Okay.
Okay, so,
Or then you have your own things.
Yeah, I got her email right here, the one she sent out today.
were you able to open it in Google Docs to see all the comments on the side?
No. Came out just like, it was like copy and pasted into the email,
Yeah.
so it didn't come out.
It wasn't sure if you'd be able to open
I
Google
just,
Docs or
Google Docs
copy
and
and paste it
Susan
into.
haven't worked out well.
And there is no, it's not a, Wi-Fi.
No,
I can't.
that would be nice.
Yeah.
What, hook up to that?
Well, she can hook up, I think you might be able to hook up,
Yeah, just get your email.
but you can't wirelessly send it.
No, you have to hook to that. The other side. There's that. This is Simpson. See if I can get this to work. HDMI. And you might need, I think, actually you should need to.
You're doing something.
So you keep going past it. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. It's all that should Google Docs, that's why I'm saying. For some reason, I have an I choose to purchase F8 and it projects it up. But this is different, and that's why I'm getting screenshots, that's what it keeps doing over there. I'm just trying to see if there's a way to do this quick without, I've got it on mine, but I don't have Google Docs, so we try it again.
I mean,
Did
it's
you-
not mine, it's just not, I mean, I'm up here.
I know, but I don't know how to mirror it. Is there a way you know how to mirror it?
It's like control screen or something.
There's no- there's no-
Of course.
Ah, right here. Check.
Same sec. Is that what I
I
wanna
don't know what a computer. I'm pretty good at
I did this for a presentation.
Yep, I think you did something.
that.
There we go.
Okay.
It's mirrored.
do? Okay.
Ah,
Oh, wow.
thank you.
No, she.
Oh,
I didn't
got
touch
it.
All right, so just starting off with the beginning,
Do you want a chair over there?
no, I'm good. So in the beginning, the rules, use of tobacco and whatnot, I think that belongs down below the rules.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you had said to split it up so that there is an A.
So,
We can add that, you can look at the field house, the field module and parallel that. I don't know if we need to do it right now.
Okay,
let's
so
please,
you wanted
just
to
put
call
field
this
house right there.
A field house. Okay, and then within the field house, section
You have
one, there's the restrooms.
Yeah.
Um,
Should be restrooms, and then community space,
okay,
which is up there, section
oh, and
2,
concession space.
And then
So
concession.
if I take, so field house, section one restrooms,
Section 2 would then be.
Why do we need to
Here.
section out youth and adult sports leagues and events?
Okay, are we,
Can we just say,
where is that?
well, you have A and B here.
so you're right here, youth and adult sport leagues,
Yeah.
and then B being events including camps.
Isn't it kind of the same thing? Every effort will be made to have them open. We will have a porta potty.
Youth, in theory, yes, but the purpose behind these were specifically for sport leagues. And if there's a big time event, for example, Field Music and Arts, they can have them open if they want to take responsibility for it, or they don't have to. But then they'd have to find.
But that would be the same of any user, right? So can we just add that clause?
No, well, you can.
I'm just trying to condense it, that's to make it.
Why? Because what we're trying to do is make it clear that for those who are, particularly youth leagues, this was the purpose for, that they're open.
Okay, so looking at what you had,
Sport leagues are open for that period of time. They're not
Yeah,
between
I'm
those
not
hours.
disputing that.
Okay.
you had an outside handicap porta potty at the discretion of the Newbury Rec Committee. What do you mean by at the discretion of?
Okay.
So I'm in Newbury, Youth and Adult Sport Leagues.
If porta potty is, the idea was to have a porta potty available that is not part of the building, so that people who walk their dogs during the day still have a place to go. People want to use it during the day.
Yeah, and if something happens, there's something to use out there.
There's something to use.
Yeah.
I think
So,
I don't
and-
think she's questioning that, I think you're the verbiage, the word.
Right,
Is
at the
it-
discretion of. What did you mean by at the discretion of?
Because right now, we don't have a policy saying who's responsible for it. In theory, it would be nice if the town of Newbury supplied it.
Yeah,
You can get rid of at the discretion of, is that what
or
you're
the rec
saying?
department.
I think it
Will be
should,
supplied by.
shall be
Newbury.
installed spring, summer, and fall as a courtesy to the patrons,
Okay,
right?
okay. Yep.
Okay.
It's just a verbiage thing. Okay.
Well, that means we're responsible for it.
We always said we would be though.
Okay, I'm just making.
Dates
clear.
of placement at the discretion of the rec committee.
Yep.
I think that it would be, it would make more sense to give actual dates, so say April 10th to November 10th, because that covers spring, summer, fall.
But you realize last year, or the year, I think it was last year, they weren't on the fields until later in late April. So that's the
Right.
reason why the dates have always been like, depending on the weather type of situation, that's all.
There's an mutual understanding that April 1st is when we start looking at opening the fields.
Mhm.
The idea was to have it on or about April 1st, going through, depending on their season of our users, to mid-November.
So why don't we just say something, will be installed, based on when the season's
No, that's the
open,
discretion of us.
when the season's open or something.
Why do you have to put a time frame on there at all?
Yeah, so it's almost
Yeah, I
like,
don't even,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Keep it simple.
yeah, that's where I was coming from is,
Yeah.
so cost of the porta potty, but I think that that's already up there. Shall be installed for the spring as a courtesy to the patrons, like you said.
so we don't need the cost.
So the cost, do you
Or
agree
you can
that?
say by the Newbury Recreation Committee if you want.
Yeah, the Newbury Recreation Committee, the town.
And now it says shall be installed by the Newbury Rec for the spring, summer, fall seasons.
can you address can we add who's responsible for keys either?
Yep, I have that up here, who,
I just wasn't sure,
okay,
I see that as more of an operational issue as opposed to policy and procedure.
I agree.
And that's something that we can determine on an ongoing basis. We can get a framework together.
okay, just a thought, a key code. And if those people who, GPS, lacrosse, soccer, have the code for,
There's a
The
whole process,
building.
though. I like the idea. There's a whole process of letting people in. So that's why I sort of leave that out. We'll deal with it once we get some of this other stuff done.
Yeah, that's like, I think that's operational, it shouldn't be part of policy.
The key code here, is that per committee, do they each have a different code?
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that I think that we should do, that way, the DPW has one code, the rec committee has another code,
This way you know.
Triton Youth Soccer has a
Right.
code, everybody, and
They
that
can
way.
probably, the town can probably get whoever did these to install it over there too.
okay, and then you have teams renting the field will be charged a flat fee, see schedule below. I don't know if that belongs,
So I thought we were trying
Here.
to incorporate that into kind of the rate,
Okay? If we-
okay, so,
Mhm.
all right.
because that's,
We can do it however we want.
Okay.
well, that was what I
Yeah.
certainly not.
Right.
So I'll remove this, right here.
Yeah.
Okay. And then jumps to, goes from field house, section 1 restrooms, and then B, events, including camps. Do we
Well,
want
no,
to
there's
move?
section 1 restrooms, A, youth and adult leagues, and then B, events.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
so the B is the B to the A of the youth and sports.
so the next group,
Okay.
possible users include events and camps. Byfield Music and Art Festival, the Smiths using it, the summer camp comes in.
So do we have to put at the descriptions, but other regular users may be required to pay a fee?
Based on number of participants and duration of the event. If a user does
Don't
not
do
want
number
to.
of participants anymore, because it's based
No,
on
we
that
do
stuff.
for that, because if it's a large event.
Oh, you're right,
Yeah,
you're right, I
that's right.
apologize.
Yeah.
So if the user does not want to assume responsibility of the care and maintenance of the laboratories, see below, they must supply an adequate number of porta potties determined by the number estimated on the field permit.
So
And then I had said, who has to pay? Is this based on numbers and hours? Who does and does not have to pay?
It's at our discretion. So when they make the application, for example, if a company comes in and wants to host a large event that they're generating profit from, and it's gonna bring in 5,000 people, it's gonna take wear and tear on our septic.
Yeah,
So
no,
they
we
would have
can't,
to-
yeah, we can't, in a situation like that, we'd have
However-
to lock the building up, and they'd have to bring their own porta potties.
Well,
Yeah.
that gives us the flexibility to
Yeah.
make that determination.
Absolutely.
However, if an event comes in where they're, for example, not generating any fees, it's a free event, they're only expecting 100 people for, 50 people for 2 hours, then we can say, you don't need to pay for it because it's not gonna take wear and tear. And we can work on a better definition, for example, later on, but the idea is depending on what you're doing.
So I think, can we just start other regular users or large, just start at that? At the,
I use the word at the discretion, so they know who's making that decision. It's like an IEP. Who's ultimately responsible for it? Somebody needs to be responsible for it. It's
well, at
not-
the bottom of the entire document, we can put the disclaimer that everything is at the discretion. I mean, because we seem to have it in every paragraph, so that's why.
I just think that that's vague, may be required to pay a fee based on. Is
Are you
it
trying,
just-
you trying to get a certain number in there to kind of say, if it's more than this or less than that?
Well,
it's a number
I'm
of
just
people,
thinking
number
if I
of
were
hours,
reading
what type
this,
of
I
event.
would be wondering, how do you decide
It's
that?
based on the scope. It's based on the scope of the event to find out, because as Mark said, if you had 50 people playing football compared to 50 people watching a movie,
Mm-hmm,
I wouldn't, it's tough for that number to even judge that the same, because the wear and tear of the field, or the fact that they maybe bring other people with them, compared to just 50 people to come and watch a movie or having something going on.
so this is
It's-
just the restroom.
Yes,
Yes.
we're in the restroom
When you guys
section.
are going full out on your games, are there, is
Oh,
there
it's still
one
running.
of those
But
bathrooms
yeah,
that people waiting?
you still got
or is it
people
just-
coming in and out, depending what you're looking at.
Okay, yeah, I didn't think so, so that'd be cool.
So,
Outstanding.
Is that outstanding? No.
So are we starting with other regular users? What do you not like about it, Mariah?
just, that it doesn't seem clear. So is it based on numbers and hours, who pays, who doesn't pay? But I guess, if it seems to make sense to everybody else except for me.
It's just, I understand what you're trying, you want things more clear, laid out, but unfortunately, based on the type of things that we could get,
Okay,
you really, there is no rhyme, there's no set
Yeah.
number and stuff.
okay.
We just got to kind of go
Well,
around
is
it.
there gonna be a fee section?
On this,
Well, that'll be that'll be the next document. But this is sort of, here's the guidelines, so putting numbers in now.
and we need to get this to the board so we can get this approved and get this off our table as quick as we can.
Okay, classes or scheduled activities. Fee is waived for meetings, gatherings organized by Newbury residents or the town department, board or committee, and nonprofits. Fee is waived for nonprofits and for profit groups offering free clinics, events, showcases, or, cost will be included in the user fee. And then you would put in there, if Seacoast United wants to hold a field hockey clinic, there would be no charge to the participants. They would not be responsible for a comfort station fee.
So somebody, is that clear for everybody?
No.
No.
Somebody wants to offer a free clinic to Newbury residents, Triton students. Massachusetts lacrosse wants to come in and do a 1-day, 2-hour clinic. They're not charging anybody. They want to do a clinic because they just want to promote lacrosse. We don't charge them to use the field, and they're not being charged to use the facilities. If they come in and say, we want to do it, we're going to charge each person $10, then we would be asking them for money.
So they wouldn't be charged to use the field for the hours that they?
Where are we talking
Because
about?
because my understanding is that if you rent the field, you charge the
Yeah, yeah.
hours, and then the bathrooms aren't included.
Right, because
Yeah.
technically Triton Youth Soccer is
Again,
not
we're
profit.
still in the bathroom section, so we're not talking,
So-
we're talking
Okay,
about bathroom.
so that, yes, you're right. I stand corrected.
Okay, so we can get rid of that whole paragraph.
Yes.
I think so.
Fees. Nah. it's waived.
There's
Okay.
no fee, because it's part of the rental fee of the
Gotcha.
fields.
Okay,
And then we need to say, fee would be, again, I know what you're saying, it's convoluted the way I'm thinking about it. It's just basically saying you're not paying for the bathroom, but if they're getting it free, they're gonna get the bathroom for free, so, okay.
so am I taking this
Yep.
whole C out?
No, I think just B, right?
Just B.
Just B.
Section 2, field house community space, which is the next section.
So, yes, okay.
So is this how, got section 1, restrooms, section 2, field house community space?
Yes.
Okay, yes,
Mhm.
okay. Public use, and you had put restrooms will remain open to the public using separate entrance during reserved time. And then what I
So
had
that
asked.
has nothing to do with the community space.
Yes, you have to go, is GPS on the agenda?
They're on the new items, they're on the discuss the refund.
Yeah,
What, can we suspend what we're doing now?
Yeah, you should take her.
Just, it'll take 2 minutes other than that, so. Do I hear a motion to suspend the order of the agenda?
I make a motion to suspend the order.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
yes.
Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One thing we had on the agenda for GPS was discussing about the refund that Stephanie brought to us last month. Because of limited use of the fields weren't done at the time, please state your case. Or provide us a little bit of background, if you could, please.
Yeah, sure. So, I have requested a refund for the summer event that we ran on the fields. Obviously with the changes that you guys are trying to implement, it created some challenges as to when we could advertise. We were waiting to hear back from the town, whether or not we could do certain things. So once we got the okay, we moved forward with it. And unfortunately, there weren't too many kids to sign up at that time because people registered early for camps. So to me, there was not a camp that we could justify calling a camp and charge people. There was no more to me than a babysitting. So we honored the babysitting, paid for the porta potty, paid for the coaching staff, could not let the people pay for it.
Okay. And we charge you $600.
Correct.
So you didn't have anything, post anything either week?
I'm sorry.
He had people there, but it was not
He
a,
Post
refunded.
anything either week?
But no, we did. We still honored what I call the babysitting, not so much the camp, although we tried to do the best we could. The camp doesn't happen if you don't have enough players, enough attendance. We've done this in the past for many years. Attendance in this area has never been an issue.
but based on that last minute thing where they had to talk about the police and fire and all that, that's what caused the curtain to all this stuff. I'm gonna throw something out, we'll have a discussion about it, unless someone else wants to do it. make the motion to not refund, but reduce their next paycheck by, their next fee by $300
I
for
would say provide them with a credit.
their credit.
So
That's my motion on the table.
Credit for next spring's,
The next, whatever the next billing cycle is, once it's decided.
because they're paid for this season, so. it
I
has to
understand
be
that, but if for
next
some reason this did not get responded, resolved by then, I don't want to put a date and time on it, whatever the next billing period is for them, that would be when it's done. Do I hear a second? I can't discuss it with that, doesn't mean we're
spring.
approving it.
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion? I
All right,
would-
so essentially what happens is that they had a camp, but they didn't have enough people that showed up
Because of
It wasn't,
because of the whole thing with the firing.
yeah, because we had to jump
And
through
then
hoops and
they
they had to
had-
go to the board, they had to do it, so he couldn't advertise ahead of time to know if he could do it.
it came out of our hands because it was considered a special event.
That's
So
right.
we had to go
Yep.
to the board, which doesn't meet as regularly during the summer as they do during the rest of the year. So it threw off the opportunity
Yep.
to secure, set out the advertising because he didn't know if he could have it or not.
Where we're going through this right now, and we're talking about clinics that are offered for free, that we don't charge them for it, would it
If
fall?
if it's for Newbury residents only,
Yeah, okay.
was this gonna be for Newbury residents only?
Well, no, we're conflating two issues. This is what's up there.
I
know what you're
understand, but I'm
trying to-
answering her question so I can clarify to say, was this for Newbury residents only?
I'd have to go to the roster of the players
So,
to give that
Doesn't matter.
answer
It's not-
accurately.
no,
It's not
That's,
nonprofit.
no, it's not, it's also not a nonprofit, it's the same stuff.
Yeah.
so the question is, the motion on the table is to
I'm okay with
provide credit to the next billing cycle to GPS for the amount that they already paid, $600, to be applied to the next
Excuse me, what did you say?
He said.
I said three, split it,
three.
is what my motion came in.
Yep.
As of right now, to change that, we'd have to then amend that and go back to it. So right now, so my question is, this is where the Robert's Rules comes in, like I did years ago. So the question right now is there any more discussion on the proposed motion, unless someone wants to amend that motion to something else?
I make a motion to amend it to the 600 to full value.
Do I hear a second on that?
I agree.
Okay, so now the discussion on that, I'm not in favor of the six, nothing against the groups or whoever it was. They still had people, they still did something, they still used our field. I thought splitting it would be the right thing. They're a profit group, they're not a non-profit group. So, that's just my opinion. You guys certainly have yours, and everybody's gonna vote at the end of this, so. Do I hear any more discussion on the amended motion to $600? Hearing none?
I think that, I think I'm in favor of the three, of going to half.
Well,
because it was-
we're only discussing
Oh,
the
it's
six
six,
right now.
okay.
So the question right now, all those in favor of the amended motion of providing GPS $600 credit towards their next invoice. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye.
I really don't know.
So as of right now, that motion is 2 for, 2 against, and 1 abstain. So as it doesn't pass. It can't pass without a favorable vote. So now we go back to the original motion of $300.
I feel the same way, so I'm.
Well, we'll find out how that goes in 2 seconds anyway, so. Is there any discussion on $300? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
For the 300?
for the $300 credit.
Oh, aye.
All right, that passes 4-0-1, because of Celine's abstaining. You guys have got a $300 credit towards your next invoice.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for patience through all this. All right, do we have a motion to go back to the agenda as planned?
Yes, I second.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's go back.
Okay. All right, So Fieldhouse community space. Will users need to apply to the rec committee to reserve the space?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, otherwise you'll have double bookings.
and it's
Okay.
also, it's,
So that was part of the calendar.
yes,
Okay. Restrooms will remain, okay, so I don't think that that's,
So I have a question about that
Yeah.
one. How is the restroom gonna remain open to the public using a separate entrance? If-
There's a separate entrance for the bathrooms, there's 2 sets of double doors in the building.
Yeah, there's one that just goes right to the bathroom.
So,
And then there's a door that
what
is
public
locked.
is gonna be using it though?
Yeah,
That's my
people,
question.
there'll be an event going on inside the field house where people are on the field playing.
Ah, now I get you.
Or, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
So this is just for the Fieldhouse community space, okay?
yeah.
okay. So,
Users will need to, right?
Just use your text.
To reserve.
I don't know why I put that asterisk there.
Yeah, that was throwing me right off.
It's gotta be. Restrooms will remain open to the public. Users of this space will abide by state, local, federal law. I didn't know if that would need to be there where it's also under rules.
Yeah.
I just want to make it abundantly clear, because the idea is if somebody wanted to serve alcohol in there, they need to know that for that public space, they need to follow the rules.
But that's also,
That's
and
gonna be at
that's,
the end of the
that's the,
document.
that's the reason why,
Applies to-
if we weren't removing that, I would've said that that definitely needs to be there, but if we're taking that thing and put it at the end, I think we can get rid of the line.
Okay.
Is it in the second section? Is it?
It's in second,
Yeah,
it's,
there's a whole rules section.
I know, is that in there, or should we copy paste?
I think I put it in for a couple of specifics, like alcohol, if you're selling things. But there's different rules and regulations that they need to follow.
Okay, so public use, users will need to apply to the rec committee to reserve the space. Restrooms will remain open to the public using separate
Can-
entrance.
I'm sorry, go
Yes.
back, you had crossed off regular users. All right, skip it, I missed it, so lost my turn.
Do you want me to
No,
go back?
no, we're good.
Okay, permit holders can also reserve the space for registrations, coaches meetings, and trainings at no additional charge. Space is subject to availability prior to and during their paid season.
So my only issues with that is, first of all, the fees for this are gonna be nominal anyway, right? I think we were talking like, you know, small blocks for little money. It's just hard to police that. I think if you reserve the space, you know, what happens if they plan on having a training and someone else wants to, you know,
subject to availability. If somebody else come in and pay to use the space, then they don't have that opportunity.
If someone's paying for the spot compared to one of the groups that come over, but if the place isn't being used and you guys need a place to talk, do board stuff, then that's including your fee. You can use it as long as it's not being used.
Okay, and so priority, so as long as it's not being used, priority status, it had Newbury residents for nonprofit use.
You know,
Current permit holders. And then the reason I crossed out the bottom is, isn't Triton Youth Sports organizations, aren't they current permit holders?
not unless you have a Triton youth sport that is not in season. So say they had a Triton youth basketball wanted to use it,
Okay,
they could use it just because they're not in season, they don't use the field, but if they needed a place to go over stuff, they could do it.
Okay.
Especially once we get the courts up,
okay, so not in season?
yes,
Okay,
and that kinda covers both ends of it.
okay. And then,
I would just be careful with in-season, non-Triton youth organizations. Boom. If they're, because football would be in season during the fall, and that means the Ipswich Triton team could use it.
Triton Youth Sports Organization's non-permit or non-permit holders. So if they're
Okay.
not holding a permit and they wanna use it, they just fall on the list there.
Yeah,
I think
It
that,
kinda covers the season
Yes.
piece of it.
yeah, okay, that's what I was looking for.
If you find
Because-
somebody that's good, just,
Okay. And then so current seasonal paying users.
I wouldn't work with the season pay, I think we crossed
Just
the line.
seasonal permit holders,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, you can do that.
If you
Just
have a
take-
permit,
Okay. Triton Regional School District organizations and clubs.
wait a minute, this is where I was having a problem.
Yeah.
Because permit holders, so you say permit holders can reserve subject to availability, and then they're number 2 on the list.
That's why I had said over here, why not first come, first serve? So I'm missing subject to availability, I feel like says first come, first serve, but then you've got a priority status.
If two people submit the same thing when they drop it off and all are trying to get into the schedule, but if we have an online thing, the first one that puts it in, because it'll block up the other one.
well, that depends on
But until then,
program
we have
it's
to,
used, but the idea is that certain organizations have a greater priority. I think, for example, the Friends of Newbury Library, if they wanted to meet there, might, and it's just a suggestion, we can move all the stuff around. Might wanna get them before the Triton Regional School District.
Yeah. Because they're Newbury people.
Yeah.
Versus
And, you know,
Triton,
so they can
yeah.
be, 3 can be 4, 4 can be 3.
Yeah.
But the idea is, if Triton programs needed the space, something happens, they have access to the building.
So what about a Newbury resident that was doing it for profit? What if they're having a yoga class? They're charging people.
Then they're not a resident, they're a business. And that would come on, and then we could, that'd be part of the fee schedule.
There's no window in there for somebody who's that, not a permit holder, not a business, not a,
So you mean something like Roots to Wings, the yoga
Yeah.
place, the family lives in Newbury, they often use the beach, they come to Salisbury Elementary, Newbury Elementary. They are a profit company, but they do nonprofit events or profit events.
Well, then,
Offsite.
that goes, yes,
No
that goes
volunteers.
back to if they wanna do something for free and not charge people, then they can have access to it, Newbury residents for nonprofit use. Not that they are a nonprofit, they are not charging for the use of it.
How about putting number 6, others, all others?
Okay.
That'll cover everything.
I like others. As my brother and sister call me, the other.
But, Celine, you're right, there should be a, public, reserved space. And public use is for permit holders, that's, okay, but can you go back to, I'm trying to rethink how I thought it, permit holders go up,
So if I went back to the bathroom, classes or scheduled activities, so fee is waived for gatherings organized by Newbury residents or town departments, board or committee. So again, Beth over at Roots to Wings decides that she wants to use it. Is she now, fee is waived
that'd be part,
for the bathroom?
The bathroom, no, because there'd be in a fee schedule for the use of the building, that's part of the fee schedule. Second
no, but
part
I
is
see what she's saying.
permit holder is, I think I was meaning, can you scroll up, not scroll up, but no, go the other direction. Permit holders, and then I had, can also be reserved. I think there was supposed to be an area for permit holders, so we were given a permit to use that space for we will be giving a permit, I'm trying to think of a different word, because that's what we used for the field space. That people can reserve it, there'll be a fee if there's a for-profit they're charging people money. Then there's also, people can reserve it if they're not charging people money and they're just using it. So there should be something, you're right, and there should be something about organizations that charge money.
Or it says others, just do a parentheses example, for-profit groups. So
Well, it
they
doesn't have to
understand
be
that
for profit, it could be a nonprofit who is charging $50 to do an activity. If they're making money, then they should pay us. If they're not making money, or charging a fee, there's money, no money
Yeah, so
changing hands.
charging a fee.
If you're charging a fee,
Yeah.
Except, so here's just a thought. If our fees, if the bathroom, if you rent the,
field.
no, the
Space.
Public space.
middle part,
Common space.
common space,
Community space.
is it an expectation that you have access to the bathrooms?
Yes.
So what if we, I think because of some kind of overhead, there has to be a basic nominal fee regardless who you are. Not a big fee, like
But there's the issue of
there's a
collecting the money.
$10 user thing or something like that.
Put in the pot to clean the bathrooms once a week.
Just
Well,
Well,
does that mean that the people who use it to play pickup basketball have to pay a fee?
If they use the inside of the building, yeah.
But we're keeping it open, it's public space.
The bathrooms,
The idea
no,
is, the idea of
bathrooms
trying to
are
collect
open,
$10
but
from this group
community
or
space
that
won't
group.
be.
No, it's not, it's just meant to, you know, if we're, I was just trying to see if we can just include, if the bathroom is, like if the bathroom's included in the field space, if the bathroom's included in the,
If the bathrooms are gonna be open, and when that building's open, the bathrooms are gonna be open.
right, so they're
Yeah.
included.
So they're included, they can use the bathroom.
Okay, so
Yeah.
go back to that,
To this one, C, for restrooms. C, classes or scheduled activity fee is waived for the bathrooms for meetings, gatherings organized by Newbury residents or town department, board or committee and nonprofit.
they'll be open, so we don't even have to have that section,
That whole line C, that whole,
do we?
no,
I
C
mean,
can all
before it
go.
goes?
Because if it's gonna be open anyway, it doesn't matter.
Okay,
Because it's referring to, that section's referring to the bathrooms
right,
only. It's not referring to the community space or anything else, it's only talking about the bathrooms,
right,
so we're good in that.
okay. And then this next one is okay? I mean, the one before, but yeah, so
Yes,
camps,
because that's a special event.
youth and adult sport leagues, camps,
Yeah, so if anybody's using those, they can have it, but we have to figure out what they're gonna be using and make sure we adjust it.
okay. So then, field house, are we okay with priority status?
Just Newbury residents, and then Newbury residents for nonprofit use.
Okay.
And again,
Concession.
It doesn't mean that they need to be a 501c3, they're just, if they're not charging people to do an activity, they're letting
Okay.
people, they're offering for free.
Concessions area, so now we've talked about the bathrooms, the community space, so now the concession area. Required to abide by state, local laws, obtain necessary permits, licenses. When the concession area is in operation, and then I added by whom.
By whomever is using it.
Or how about instead of an operation, say in use? Because you have users using things, right?
Okay, no additional vendor on the premises is permitted without prior written consent from the assigned vendor, the rec committee, board of health, and or board of
So a
selectmen.
food truck can't come when you're trying to sell concessions.
Exactly.
So,
Unless they make an agreement and the different parties agree to it.
so, just briefly,
Okay,
if we do this and this opens, this goes in, how does the ice cream trucks work on that kind of situation?
It would be a matter of working with the selectmen to say, we are reserving this right.
Okay.
They have to get their licenses from them to go in and do it, if they're gonna come on the property.
So, I mean, they're doing that now, so what would happen once these things are approved?
The vision would be they'd have to get permission to who is ever using it at that time.
Okay.
Do we know,
Or
do we
general-
know how long their permits are?
Who's-
How long, when the ice cream trucks go to the board of selectmen and say, I wanna sign for a license for X amount of time? I presume it's not,
We've never done that.
So
I've
the-
been on the board of selectmen 3.5 years. We've
So
never had anybody come with an
the ice cream,
So-
so the people with the ice cream trucks, they don't have to have a permit to come on the field?
They might have to have a permit, but I've never get issued one. I've never
I
had
don't think
one.
they're supposed to come on the field. I don't think that, I remember years back being told that ice cream trucks are not supposed to be on Mantor because it's not,
Typically,
Public.
my understanding is there's a requirement if anybody selling any foods would have to get a permit from the Board of Health.
Board of Health, I think.
Some different boards of health have different levels of
Well, if
involvement.
the ice cream truck has a permit from the Board of Health, then it could sell, it could come.
so I can then question if you touch base,
Well,
would help to find out.
It all
the
depends on
time
our
frame.
policy, whether we allow them on the field or not, because, again, you know, they could park out in the street, but if there's something going, if we have a vendor, you know, like if someone's for
Selling
the
ice cream.
PTA,
Yes.
yeah, then they're cutting into that profit that the PTA would get or something like that, so.
And it's matters of sitting down with the different parties and working out how to make it happen.
Well, I think if you rent fields, if you were, say, the Boy Scouts, and you were doing something there, and you were selling some concessions out of there, and the ice cream truck showed up, I think whoever was there managing the event would go to the ice cream truck and say, listen,
Well, we'd work with the ice cream truck and say, here's the schedule, here, people are using this, there are vendors already in place.
that's
Okay,
if
I'll
you,
have-
that's if the ice cream truck comes to you and asks.
Yeah,
There are ways to make things happen,
Yeah.
okay? And then it's not a matter of them asking, it's the first time they show up, we provide them with notice.
Yeah.
okay, so the Recreation Committee reserves the right to secure a concessions operator, manager through the open bidding process.
So the idea is, I ran into a couple of walls, getting assistance. There are RFPs out there that we could send out to send it out there, look for responses, for somebody to manage it year round, and they would keep the profits. We could ask for a certain fee, there's many ways in which it could be set up, but the idea is, until such time that happens, we can let the different permit holders use it as part of the renting of the fields during the time that they're using.
So that kind of protects the town into saying that if we ever wanted to do this, that we have enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so fees payable to the town of Newbury may be required as part of the process. If a concessions operator of the field house is awarded, said contract will be prioritized over other users. The concessions operator can, at his discretion and with approval of 2 members of the rec committee, sublet the space for a nominal fee, not to exceed $5 per hour.
What's the point of that?
I kind of feel like that comes later.
The idea behind that is if trainers, brick throwers wanted to let somebody else use it for that Saturday because they don't have an event, they can let the totem pole catchers use it. But the idea is not for somebody to reserve the space, turn around and sell that space to somebody else.
But I would think that that would go in with, when you interview someone to become the concessions operator, that would become part of the contract with the concessions operator?
It could be. The thinking at the time was, again, somebody has 3 weeks scheduled. The second week there's no home games, so they don't want to run it, and they have an opportunity to let somebody else run it for them. They don't get any money. They can't turn around and say, we're going to give it to this group for $50.
Right, but this has to do with the concessions operator, this person, manager that's hired through a bidding process. This isn't soccer, baseball.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think that should be in there myself.
I feel like that
So
would should
if they're not operating it, nobody can operate it?
No, I think that when that person is hired, that's part of his or
The
her
contract.
contract. That, same with if you were to rent an apartment, it's part of your lease to not be able to sublet that apartment.
Or it could, if it's in the lease. Okay.
Right,
I-
so
I
the
just-
lease
I'm
would
just
come
trying to
second.
understand.
So when, if and when this does come to play, that has to be addressed
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the
Yep.
contract.
Yep.
So area nonprofit groups can apply to use the facility as a fundraising tool at no cost. And then I just took that during scheduled league play if no concessions operator has been awarded. I feel like it's up here. It already says that when the concessions operator, if there is one, has the right to, no additional vendors allowed on the premise.
Yeah.
So I feel that that's just rewording what's up above.
The idea was during scheduled league play.
It's kind of covered at the top in that
Okay.
bullet number 2, so A can come out, that portion of it.
Okay. Special tournaments or events. So this is again for the concession area, special tournaments or events.
He kept the same group, but all he did was just take out the Newbury residents out of the first one, because they wouldn't be part of the special tournament, most likely.
Can I say
Yeah.
something? There's been the lacrosse tournament, there's a vendor area where they're selling lacrosse-related stuff, not necessarily food that would be sold in. Is this gonna address that, or is this in conjunction, or is this just a separate thing?
This is just in regards to the field house. So
Field
if you
house.
have vendors selling lacrosse stuff, that's separate.
Okay.
And there's still recreation committee discretion to make decisions on a case by case. So if you guys wanna not use the concession area and you wanna have hamburgers and hot dogs like they used to, you know, we have the right to say, okay, or not, you know what I mean? I think that's okay.
And how about if they wanted to like put up a tent and sell out of the tent? I know I've seen that at
That's a thing.
That's again at the discretion of the,
Yeah,
us,
it's all
so
part
I
of-
think that's fine.
Yeah.
I think,
So
yeah,
that would be part of the discussion for a special event.
yeah, yeah. Because it's not, the concession, that's not probably gonna be good enough for a bigger event.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to do something
Use
different.
copy paste and
so,
Mark.
Um,
Alright, you just taking the section above and just putting it in?
Yes, because that was my question. I think this needs to be clarified. Do you mean the field itself has a priority list and the concession stand follows the same priority list? Would it not make sense that whomever is renting the field for a special tournament event would have first refusal? So that's my thought, why those should match each other, the
Okay.
The only reason
priority
why, I think he
list.
did, the only reason why he took the first one out, he took the Newbury resident one out.
It was, a little different,
Was it?
yeah, I think too. Do you wanna compare? No.
Check it, you
Okay.
got it?
Okay, so now, okay. Cause that was my question, is why is it different? Hours, vendors and or managers of this area can establish their own hours that are approved in writing by at least 2 members of the rec committee.
So then why do you go on to give hours?
Because it's recommended. If I can't get there to 10, I'm not gonna, I wanna open up at 10 because I don't have a game until 11. I don't wanna get there at 9. We'd like it to be open at 9 on the weekend, but if you don't have games scheduled, we're not gonna hold you to it. The game's done by 2 o'clock. You have that option.
Now, is this is someone who's a vendor that's taking the
Green
space?
Yes.
Is that gonna also go back to the lease agreement that we would
Yes.
sign with them? So is that something that has to be in this, or is that something that wants to lease, like, you know, Joe Hot Dog vendor decides he wants to have that space? Is that something we would do a separate agreement with him? Because we're discussing that formulation where he might not be open and he may wanna let 2 hours to the Triton Youth Lacrosse to sell stuff. Is that still in that same idea, or is this something totally different?
I wasn't sure what you meant by this, because if it's just, say, lacrosse season, and you wanna have someone in there selling things during the lacrosse game, Is that what this is addressing, or is this addressing if you hire a manager?
Okay.
Kind of both.
If vendors are, and or managers, so I'm trying to include both. If Triton Youth Lacrosse wants to use it, and or we get somebody, to manage the property.
Yep.
They can set the hours. Yes, it'll be part of the RFP of their response, but we're recommending it's 9 to 4 during, the weekends. That's the hours when the games are.
Yep.
But it doesn't have to be, because if you don't get a vendor, or the the manager says, I wanna do it from 10 to 3, because I don't care about the last hour, that's okay. It's on the, but we're trying to get something in our policy. Here's a general scope. Instead of putting everything on, an RFP, because we may not have one, because we may not be able to go out and get a manager, we'll use a
Contract.
vendor.
Yeah.
Even if they consider hired, they won't be vendors or no, vendors or
Gotcha.
What was the word that they
manager
used
if
before?
contracted. This is it.
Concessions operator,
There we go.
okay,
Yeah.
is what you wanna put in there. Not vendors or concessions operator.
Okay.
I have a question that kind of goes up above. Did you change 3 and 4?
Did I?
Yeah, up
No.
above 3 and 4 was, did you want to change, make,
We kept it the same.
oh, you did keep it the same?
But,
For priority status, okay. That was my question, I didn't know if you changed it.
no,
Okay,
So I don't think vendors or concessions operator can establish, that you don't have to put in of this area, because we are in that area on the document. That makes sense?
yeah,
Can establish their own hours that are approved in writing.
by at least 2 members of the rec committee.
now I have a question about that. Is that something that you need to meet and have a quorum before you can do anything?
No, that's why there's only 2 people. So that if it's on a Friday night and somebody wants to change something, instead of trying to get a quorum, we can't do it, we can't respond in a timely manner. That instead of putting the burden on one person, that they can contact Celine and they can contact me and we make a decision.
In writing.
And we put it in writing and we then send it off to everybody. But the idea is, if something should happen, you need to have a vehicle, I believe you have a vehicle to respond to in a timely manner
Okay,
that doesn't require a quorum.
I just didn't know what the thought process was behind it.
Right. When no games are scheduled or the fields are closed for use, the field house may be closed. Extended time can be accommodated at the discretion of any member of the rec committee. All requests and approvals must be in writing.
What about when there's an event?
No games.
When
The
no
events be with the
games
special
or events
events.
are scheduled,
Yeah.
just have the word instead of games or events.
Okay.
That covers us on both ends.
Why are we, it's 2 different things.
Well, you're going under hours though
You're
now.
going under, when no games, and
They're saying
then
they
should
close
number
it.
3 be extended time can be accommodated?
Yes. Kind of jamming two things together, I was only looking at the first part.
And then, can be accommodated, extended time of what, 9 to 4?
Yes. Yeah,
That
for
was a
example.
recommendation,
Right.
so,
All of a sudden, it comes up that lacrosse has a,
no, I see what you're trying to say, I'm just trying to make it,
Because you have extended, establish their own hours.
but they may establish it and we got everything going and all of a sudden things change. And it's 3 days before the event, the game get moved from 3 o'clock to 5:30.
But will there be a calendar to be able to move that? Is there a calendar for this?
That'll be all part of
It
the,
will be part of the whole software thing.
So,
If,
I think that's something that you can just fix on the calendar.
but the idea is get it in, the idea was that one person just doesn't make the decision. Or, yeah, anybody can, so the member of the rec committee would be able to get in and make that move.
At the discretion, at the approval,
With the approval.
I'm gonna think on that one. This is going to legal anyway, right?
Yes,
It has to, yeah.
and.
this is our recommendation to send to them. And they'll come
yeah,
back
So
to
they'll
this
bring
data.
it back.
Yeah,
Does not conflict,
'Cause I'm not a,
Really?
with prior
you always defer
you
to
do enough of that
attorneys.
stuff, yeah.
reservations.
Yes.
Is that what you were, with the calendar? Extended time can be accommodated with the approval of any member of the rec committee, and if time does not conflict with prior reservations, then it's
Okay.
addressing a calendar.
And then write the piece too.
Okay, so this one. Reservation for the field house, the concession stand, or both. I'm not sure what this paragraph connects to. The rec committee will accept reservation applications on an ongoing basis. It will be the goal of the rec committee to determine the status of the application at the rec committee meeting following the submission of the application. Individuals will be notified by email within 1 week after said meeting of their status. If the applicant or designee is present during the meeting, the secretary will note the decision of the committee in the minutes.
Can we say that more concisely?
So, the application will have two different sections on the field house, right? It'll have the middle part and the concessions part.
The community space and the concession part.
Right. So,
So what is
that
this?
addresses your question on the outside. Your one I had.
So here we've got, field house, we've got restrooms, and then the restrooms, oh gosh. So field house, section 1, restrooms. So restrooms, then community space, then concessions area.
Right.
Okay, and then there's this paragraph.
Oh, that's where that went to my formatting. So
Okay.
B, section A was the field house, and that was divided into 3 sections. Section B is the reservation and application process.
Okay, so section A is field house.
Field house, and then that's divided up into bathroom, community space, and concessions.
Okay.
So your paragraph A, field house section.
You know what, well, one should be a little a and then it should be a 1, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We'll have to
because
clean
now
that up.
Yeah, as long as it's consistent with the other document.
Right. All right, we'll have to go back in.
Yeah, you know what I mean,
It'll,
though.
it'll
yeah.
all, it's
Should be
gonna, if I try to go
Little
in
a, then
now.
1, 2, 3, 4, or bullets, or whatever.
Yeah, that could make a formatting mess if you try to do it now.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do bold and underline.
Yeah.
There you go.
Bold, underline.
Okay,
Okay.
so then it's not section 4, it's gonna be reservation application process,
Okay.
bold, underline.
Okay. And then, okay, so now we're getting into,
And then
This
the
one.
last section is gonna be your general rules, that one,
okay,
that can go out and underline.
okay. All right. So looking at this, so so let's just leave that paragraph for a moment. Section 4, does it fit under rules? Permitted uses, organized or regular use of the facility by groups shall require a field house consent form when 2 or more applicants apply for the same space. And then I
Yeah.
looked at that and I said, well, wouldn't you go to the priority list that you
Yes.
created?
Yep.
Okay. So that would just come out, right?
Right.
Okay. The consent form applicant will designate a responsible adult
So we have to make a consent form.
who shall be present during all times when the community area and or concession area is made available for said group. The applicant will designate a site manager. So I said, is the responsible adult and the site manager the same person?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
So
so
just,
a
you can just say,
Site manager.
site manager.
How about a responsible adult who shall act as the site manager?
Okay, who shall act as the site manager.
So they don't try to put a kid in there.
Yeah. Okay, so then I'm gonna take out this. So the consent form applicant will designate a responsible adult who shall act as a site manager.
The piece you took out is the idea is we know ahead of time who that person is.
Okay, that's what I took out.
Yeah, the applicant will designate site manager.
It's right there. It's
Yeah, it already
the
says
first
it.
one.
And
front
it
line.
so,
it says it in the front, the top one. The consent form applicant will designate a responsible adult.
Okay.
So it's,
Okay.
so then we don't
And
need to say it again, we can just say their responsibilities
yeah,
are,
instead of who's, it's there.
But the idea is they need to tell us, and it might be,
but it'll be on the form.
it should be on the form.
Yeah, the
but they
consent form
change it.
applicant
The
will
idea is they need to-
designate.
They need to make sure we are aware of who the contact person is. That I don't wanna go down there,
You gotta make sure they put that, you put that line on the form.
yes.
Yeah.
But the other part is, yeah, it's on the form, but guess what, that person doesn't show up. You know, where's Jim? I don't know. So the idea is, somewhere in there that they need to be on site, if they change it, they need to let us know.
The consent form applicant will designate a responsible adult who shall act as the site manager, be present during all times when the community area and or the concessions area is made available for that, for said group. Is that a sentence? The consent form applicant will designate a responsible adult who shall act as the site manager, be
And
present
to be present.
during all times when the community area is made available for said group. Yeah, I think we get rid of the comma and put an and.
It's kind of a run-on sentence, isn't it, Mariah?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's because you guys have me cutting and pasting here.
Manager and be present during all times.
We could just put a period after the site manager. Act as the site manager.
Right, but then I think that the site manager's responsibility includes communicating with the recreation committee, blah, blah, blah.
To be
And then-
present, not and be present, to be present. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who shall act as the site manager
Yes.
to be
Yeah,
present.
and to be present. I think we would just combine the two.
And
I vote
will be present, yeah.
Or we put on the table.
Who shall act as the site manager,
But we got more to do,
comma, will be present during all times when the community area is made
This
available.
time, you can drop the ones.
Well,
No,
can we split that into two sentences?
hold on. But then the one down below it, see how it's the responsibility? So
Yeah.
somehow it is a responsibility, includes, being present during all times, right here. So this goes right here,
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah, there you go.
being present all times and,
We're
then this piece, any complaints, I think is a separate.
Yeah.
Payment, if required, must be received prior to issuance of the
So-
consent form.
Why is it any complaints or concerns? How about any, I mean, because there may be recommendations, there might be, so any communication or?
The idea is if there's a problem, we don't wanna find out, and I'm focusing on problems, the recommendation is to it at any time. The idea is there's a problem, we should know about it as soon as possible, and not 4 days later. I do this with a lot with, talking to officials, any problems with the games, if they're a lacrosse game, because I don't wanna hear that there's a problem 3 days where I can't have that
I'm
conversation.
not saying that, I'm just saying there might be communications that aren't complaints or concerns.
That's what she
Might be
said.
something
She added it.
positive.
Trying to stay positive.
Payment, if required, must be received prior to issuance of the consent form. Access to the field house is prohibited.
Prior to acceptance of the consent form.
So they should pay before they've been accepted?
It's part of the application process.
Okay. Access to the field house is prohibited until payment has been received. Only payment by check is accepted. No future permits will be issued to a group or organization until all outstanding fees are paid.
What if the check bounces?
So
Yeah,
I thought that there
if
is
it
a
bounces,
line
they don't
payment on
use
the
it again.
website.
There is, because I paid my excise tax on it.
What's
I've
that?
been doing it all year, love it.
There is a payment
Hate to pay it, but I
section
I like
on
the
the
ease of doing
website.
it.
It's a different website, but you could put rec committee.
I bought my, a parking sticker for Ashley's car for the summer for the beach online, and they mailed it to me.
Okay. I was just trying to make it consistent to what the
Well, if
field
we
house
write
is.
full payment, then that means it's been cashed, right?
And this way, when
Okay.
they apply, the check is right there versus already paid.
Only payment by check is accepted, but I don't think we need to put that in there, because why can't you pay with credit card?
We just have to get it set up, we can get it set up.
One, it needs to be set up, but two, I give you the people, I'm paying it online. And it's not consistent with the field house.
That was gonna be
With
proof
the
of,
field.
proof of payment.
Oh, there you go.
Proof of payment if required.
Has been received.
Okay.
No, we can't do that. We can't make people
No.
pay online and then not accept, there might be a reason why we don't accept
Accept
their.
So the check, you hold on to it until we okay it, then we deposit it.
Well, I mean, I think for now, but I think we do need to get more into the 2018 and being able to pay things online. We just gotta figure that out.
We will, we gotta get to the new town hall first.
Unless specifically requested on the consent form by the applicant and approved by all applicable town departments and boards, it is understood that the group or organization may not charge any admission, and that no tickets will be sold or collections taken, and that no items will be sold, including concessions. So this might run into what you were just talking about, having.
As
a
long as they
record.
put it on the application and you're aware of it and appropriate permits are secured, that's okay.
So what about the yoga class? And she's charging admission. Poor yoga person.
I know.
Well, then she has to, that would be part of the fee schedule.
Okay,
If
okay.
you're charging money, then,
Just,
yeah.
Any violation of the permit's terms, conditions, or limitations may be grounds for immediate revocation of the consent form. No refund of the permit fee will be granted, and future applications for permits may be denied. By submitting an application, all applicants agree to adhere to all Town of Newbury and Rec Committee policies for facility use. Any individual or group who feels these rules and regulations are unfair or unreasonable may make a written complaint to the Newbury Selectmen.
Why are you throwing a test?
Because you oversee us. And
If
that's
someone
what
comes
they-
up and says, I don't agree with something, guess what? You're the ones that approved it.
Well, that's what's on the field.
You approved it.
So,
You approved our document, so.
Okay, so now going back up here, what is this paragraph? Reservation and application process, so
that first paragraph is just, here's how we're accepting it. Where the field, we have a deadline, when we open up for applications, when there's, application needs to be submitted by, and when we make our decision. Because we're doing it on a rolling basis, we wanna make sure that they're aware of that.
Except that some of our priority thing has to do with seasonal users.
Yeah, so seasonal users, you are aware of this. So lacrosse, if you are signing up for the fields, if you wanna use it, you need to apply early. And that would give us time to put them into the schedule.
I think we can get rid of the section 4 line. Do you think?
Yeah, because it's not section 4, it's this.
Yeah.
Okay, so is this kind of just an introduction to this?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. So individuals will be notified by email within 1 week after said meeting of their status.
So right now,
Let me get that out there.
Lindsay
Yeah,
takes
right.
all applications. And this is not going to Lindsay.
It would have,
It
I
has to
haven't
go to
thought it all
Lindsay.
the way through, but right now, it goes to Lindsay, and as soon as she gets something, she needs to notify us.
Okay, just asking.
Add it to the
Make sure it's
agenda.
consistent.
Okay, so that makes sense?
And then there's a whole other section
Yeah,
for both Fieldhouse and this about how we can streamline that so that we are aware and that there's a better tracking of the material that are coming in, so that we don't get into it's week before they wanna use it and you don't have the quarry. There's a check off that'll be done weekly.
so general rules, children must be supervised, no unauthorized vending is allowed. All selling of food and goods must be approved by the building management. I didn't know what that was.
Again, if we had a
So it's that other,
vendor
it's that other
or
name.
Concessions operator, is that what you call it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
concessions operator.
Okay. Must be approved by the either rec committee and or,
Concessions operator.
If applicable.
yeah.
Well, either we're gonna be in charge via, and let groups use it, or there's gonna be a building manager that is gonna take full
Okay, we
responsibility.
have
Which
not
is a
mentioned.
concessions operator, right?
Concession.
Same-
Okay, I was like, that is the
We'll-
first time we're talking about a building manager.
Are you thinking of a separate person?
No, I think he's thinking of this person.
Okay.
Yeah, if we were to put it out to bid, and somebody decides to run it for
Yeah,
us,
it's
yes.
that's the concession manager.
Yes.
Concessions operator.
Can I get rid of this line?
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And abide by any rules and regulations of the town of Newbury and the Commonwealth of Mass. The building is accessible according to the American with Disability Act and is available to those requiring use of a wheelchair. All other personal wheel equipment is prohibited, including but not limited to bicycles, scooters, and wheelies.
Skateboards.
We'll walk, and they should, use a
Bicycles,
wheelchair or walkers.
unicycles.
Hey, skateboard is not a crowd.
ATVs.
Do we have to specify all kinds of cycles?
Anything with wheels.
We'll let legal handle that one.
Okay, users are required to notify Newbury Rec liaison.
You know, if we were to have one of us rotate or somebody that they can contact right away, like with the fields, if I'm up at the fields, they let me know, here's the damage, here's a picture of it.
So for right now, can we put committee because we don't have a
Yeah.
liaison of
Perfect.
any damage, mess, or concern, because that's what we have in the previous.
Yeah.
That's why
Keep it consistent.
a lot of what's here, right here, is written again down here. So users are required to notify the rec committee of any damage, mess, or concern.
Which we
when-
have up there.
And then up here it's,
Within 24 hours.
any complaints must be forwarded to the liaison within 24 hours.
Okay, so where does it belongs below, under rules, right? Where do you,
So
It's not really a
reservation,
It's not a rule, it's just,
but it's not part of the,
application or reservation,
it's similar to the field application. If there's a problem, you need to tell us. If there's
we're
damage
not
to the
saying
field.
that, we're just.
What are you saying, which section to put it in? We don't wanna put it in both.
right.
Does it belong in the, you know,
One thing I've learned, we can't have it two different places.
Especially
worded a
saying,
little bit different.
yeah, 'cause
Because
that's,
that runs into trouble, that's what our bylaws, and we have a big issue with that.
so I don't know where it belongs, I guess.
so I'm gonna put it right here, so you have
And is that, are those two, one right after the other, users
all
are
4
required?
of them are the same.
All
So-
4 bullets?
Yeah, users are required to notify the Newbury Rec Committee of any damage, mess, or concern. Users are required to report any damage or concerns. Any complaints, concerns, recommendations must be forwarded. Any damage or excessive untidiness will be assessed to the team or the users of the field. Damage caused during use is the responsibility of the users. So I think we can take all of these and somehow make it into one.
1 or 2, yeah. I see what he's saying.
Yeah.
Users need to, you know,
Which section are they in?
you have to notify somebody before you use it and after you use it.
If there's, yeah, if you walk in, there's a problem, you need to, well, Jim's good at it, here's a picture of it, and we're gonna use the field.
So this says immediately after their use. Do we want to change it to,
Yes, no, leave it right after their use. Don't tell me 3 weeks later that. there was
right,
damage on
but
it.
So then
these
let's get
two
rid of the.
are saying 2 different things. One says immediately, one says 24 hours.
But there's, when I say
Before and
complaint,
after.
okay, Jim, go ahead.
It's immediately, before and after should be immediate also. So you'll know both ways.
Okay, so then you're adding in this one too.
So users are required to notify the Newbury Rec Committee of any damage, mess, and/or concern when beginning the use for the day.
So
Because sometimes damage might occur and you might not
it didn't follow.
realize it until you show up the next day and find it.
Right.
And
That
that's
happens, right?
Yeah,
Well, I
that's
show
happened.
up and I say, here's a
Here's a
divot,
picture of
whatever.
it, and you
And I-
notify us, and it's on
Okay.
record that it didn't happen before they used it.
So I'm gonna do this. Bring that up here. Yes?
I see them as 2 different things.
Users are required. So users are required to notify the Newbury Recreation Committee of any damage, mess, and/or concerns when beginning use for the day.
Yeah.
Users are also required to report any damage or concerns to the Newbury Recreation Liaison or Recreation Committee immediately after their use within 24 hours.
I clogged the toilet up, it's overflowing, I need to let somebody know.
Okay. And this is the committee. Okay. Any damage or excessive untidiness will be assessed to the team users of the field.
Yeah. The idea
But then
is-
damage caused during use is the responsibility of the users. Is that the same
That's
thing?
it, yeah.
Okay, so take this out.
When's,
I know you wanna get to the point of untidiness, when they go in there and they make a mess, you don't wanna, right.
And
Use
there-
of spike cleaner is strongly encouraged prior to entering the building.
which we'll have to get, but yeah.
I don't know if that's a rule.
It's, yeah,
Everybody's wearing cleats, whether it's lacrosse, soccer. So you just wanna have it so that they clean it off so they're not tracking in 3 inches of dirt.
So where would the spike cleaner be? Before
I'd
you
say
open the
each
door?
doorway.
yeah, on the porch.
It's already there?
No.
That's
not
something
that
we
way.
have to buy, but they're under $100.
So just put it, use spike cleaner before entering the building.
There you go. That becomes a rule.
There you go.
But
So if police, fire, or EMTs have been summoned, the rec committee must be notified within 24 hours.
Mhm.
The use of tobacco products, nicotine is prohibited. Alcohol is only permitted.
can we just back up to nicotine delivery? if people are on a patch, they can use it for medical purposes. I was just trying to figure out a way of when vaping becomes yet a new way to deliver nicotine. Could be just vaping for now.
And now we have to,
Yeah.
we have to address the pot issue too, because that's legal now.
Yeah, but I don't think you can do pot, in public, right?
Well, it says illegal drugs.
But they're
But it's
illegal.
recreational legal.
It's
So are
legal
you
now.
saying you don't want it on the field?
No, I don't.
No,
Okay, but
just don't.
is it legal to say that?
It's
Yeah.
legal.
Well, it's a tobacco product, whether it's
Okay.
legal or
Oh,
not,
okay.
right?
I don't know if it's
Legal,
considered
legal,
tobacco.
legal will work.
I don't do
Vaping is
either
got-
one, so I,
Recreational use of marijuana or illegal drugs is prohibited.
Use
We
of-
don't let
well,
them drink alcohol without
to-
permission.
tobacco products
So if
is
you have
covered.
pot, but
But I
not
don't know if
cigarette.
that pot is,
I don't
Oh,
consider pot
tobacco.
tobacco.
Okay, so
No,
how
it's
do,
not tobacco.
Okay.
So you just said it. Somebody just said it. The use of tobacco products,
Vaping, recreational use of marijuana.
yeah, recreational
and
use of
illegal
marijuana.
drugs is prohibited.
Yes.
How about Byfield Arts Day?
You can't smoke pot out there.
You have to.
You can't.
You have to.
You can't.
Alright.
It's still
Is the
not
music that
legal.
bad, or is it
It's
just
still
That's great.
not legal to smoke
Not that I
pot
know,
in public.
not
You
that
can
I-
smoke it in your own house.
I've
Okay.
experienced that.
But you can't smoke it out of school, you can't smoke
Yeah,
it
yeah,
in
you're
a
right,
car.
you're right,
You can't.
right.
okay.
Right.
Residents and or organizations can be removed and or barred from use for disruptive behavior and or language.
oh, I just want to say.
I think I should just take out language. I think disruptive behavior.
I think
And or
I-
profanity,
Well, yes, I wanna make sure that when people are vocally,
dropping the F-bombs.
yeah, that they can be asked to leave. We had that problem 6 years ago with the lacrosse tournament.
Okay, so then you have any individual who feels these rules and regulations, but I think that that belongs
in the rules.
in the
Yeah.
rules and regulations.
Yeah.
Instead of board of selectmen, just put Alicia Greco.
Yeah.
Just
The
to streamline it.
consumption-
Can you
The
just streamline
consumption
it?
of alcohol, that one there, can we go? well,
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. The consumption of alcohol is only permitted with the written approval of the Board of Selectmen. So we issue liquor licenses,
Yeah.
so you can't consume liquor or sell liquor. Like the Spencer Pierce Little Farm, they have to come before the board and get a liquor license for the
Oh.
jail truck to show up.
So instead of written approval, you could say without licensure or something like that.
Yeah.
You could pick-
Okay, so,
Alcohol is only permitted, by licensure of the Board of Selectmen. Because even if we writtenly gave, they got a written approval, they wouldn't have a liquor license.
Yeah, you spell that word.
LIC,
This is
Yeah,
one, too,
LIC.
but-
yeah.
yeah, and it's getting late.
No, I
Yeah.
know, I know.
And it's tough, and this is it needed to be done, and we're able to get it done.
Thank you guys for doing this.
Well, Mark, thank you for drafting it, Mariah, thank you for your feedback and your ability to sit down there and knock this
She
out.
still needs to go back and fix the ABA.
Yeah, well, that-
For-
that-
Formatting
That's-
aside.
We'll have that ready for next meeting, so.
Okay.
Hey, well, can we do this? Can we-
One, save that.
It's
Oh, yeah, sorry,
automatic.
go to the doc's automatically save it. So you're gonna ask, go ahead, make the motion, because I already know what you're gonna do.
Yeah,
Okay.
with the expectation that formatting is set, I make a motion, we approve this document to forward to the legal and then on to the board if approved, and with the recommendations of the legal department, move it to the board of selectmen for approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
Question.
That's under discussion, there you go.
We don't have any fee thing.
That's okay.
That's,
This is
that'll
policy.
be on the other piece.
That's the next
Okay.
thing.
Okay.
Well, cost recovery and then the fee.
Chunk it,
Yeah.
get the policy done.
Well,
And
it's,
then
but it's 9:10, it's 10 minutes to 9. I've only got 10 minutes left. Jim has been more than patient, thank you.
Who seconded that one?
I didn't see.
So, before we go any further, I'd like to make a motion
Wait a
to,
minute, why don't you vote on this one? Did you
Already
already
did.
vote on it? Oh, sorry.
oh, I apologize. All those in favor of the amendment, of the motion right now to accept as is, or to accept it after the formatting is done,
To send to legal.
to send to legal and then then
Send it
to
back
Board of
to us,
Selectmen.
right?
Probably not.
If it comes back to us, I mean, if there's any major changes, we'll relook at it. If not, it'll go on to the Board of Selectmen.
So this is where we got to, and then Celine said she had a comment.
But that was regarding the fee, and we're gonna change it.
Okay, so yeah, now we need to go back and vote, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion- You say no?
I don't oppose.
Oh, I'm about to say, excuse me, I'm gonna throw something.
No.
After all that hard work, are you kidding me? All right.
Thank you.
I'd like to suspend the order just so Jim can be heard right now, because he's been more than patient, so thank you for Triton Youth Lacrosse.
One thing we've got coming up is very low numbers coming in. There's a possibility we might join with Georgetown for just our two lowest teams.
Okay.
How would that affect our fee schedule? I can get more information. Right now, they're just saying that it's still gonna be a town level soccer. It's just residents of Georgetown may or may not come in, or we may be joining into Georgetown's program.
Did you submit your application for the spring already?
No.
Then,
As far as I'm concerned, they're non-profits, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
Would they be considered
That will
Triton
not
Youth
affect them,
Lacrosse?
that will not,
Would they be joining Triton Youth Lacrosse?
Well, depends, if it's gonna screw things up here, send them to Georgetown.
but I'm saying, are you planning on charging them any different than you would a Triton Youth person?
No.
Then it's just the same
As
thing.
far as I'm
As far as I'm concerned, it's just new people coming in.
Yeah,
And
your
treat them the same way.
recommendation is Triton,
Okay.
so.
So,
But thank you for asking the question.
'cause that's-
anything else?
No, that's it
Okay.
for the moment.
Thank you, I just wanna
I
make
think that's
sure.
a great idea, I hope, because
Yeah, we want-
Georgetown.
They're gonna sell the box a little bit.
Both need each other,
Right,
yeah, that's great.
need to bring up the numbers, so.
If only we could get Georgetown.
All right,
I always thought that.
we have two things sitting here. Before, I'm not including the new business, and if you guys wanna continue this stuff to nine o'clock, you're more than welcome to, but I will be, unfortunately, have to
Can I
leave.
make a motion to skip the cost recovery and do some of these other things?
So let's skip, I'll make a motion to skip the rest of the old business and go to new business.
Second that motion?
Any questions, discussion, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. First thing on the new business is scheduling software options. You sent out a link,
Oh,
To the-
sorry.
don't worry about it, we're not gonna get into too much
Okay.
detail. But you sent out from the Google Calendar.
Yes.
That looks great. My only question, and I just didn't get a chance to explore it.
Yeah.
So can we tab like field one, field two, concession area?
It has all different components to
So
it.
we should be able to do that.
One thing that maybe you would have an answer for is, I think it was a domain. In order to do a trial with it, which I thought would have been great to bring in, you need to have a domain with it. I can actually send you the question, and then if there's already a domain created,
Will you send it to the town administrator,
yes.
Tracy Blaze,
Okay.
and she'll do it?
How do I, what's her?
Town admin.
It's
Yeah,
town
she's the
administrator.
Town administrator at Town of Newbury.
What about the town's calendar? Isn't there a way in which we can set up a separate one, so like other
I don't
towns
know.
have it? Here's everything that's going on with the town, here's the meetings, here's the fields.
Yeah, I wanna
Yeah,
look
it
at
would
that.
look right in.
Well, I think if you ask, you can ask Tracy at the same time, that same question. We're looking at using this software, but also, is there any feasibility of using the
What the
town,
town
the town
currently
currently has, and
Okay.
just creating a separate version
So
for
I
it?
met with them a while back, way back, and for some reason, that was kind of a no. I don't.
For what, I mean, you don't know the reason, but the idea, how about the library with their, the idea is if the town had one
It has capability already before purchasing.
purchasing, but
It's
to,
free.
Google Doc, it's free, it's Google Doc.
but I
See,
mean,
we're being fiscally responsible right
I
now.
know you are.
well, there's a part of spending money to get what we need.
Yeah.
Well, we did,
because,
we looked at, so we looked at one, but it was expensive, it was like $2,300.
Which one was that?
Myrec.com.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways, and some of them could be My League, which is owned by Sports Illustrated. There's Active, which we use for,
So can you send out a link, email with those links?
So
if you wanna meet with the guy from Active, because they can, eventually we wanna do registrations, right?
No,
We never wanna do, we don't, when we
Well-
run programming,
You mean the applications?
No, registrations for, we have kids who wanna do a summer program. Some of these places can do that, there's field management
know that.
software.
Yeah, that's what we were looking at, and I just didn't think that we were at that level.
Yeah.
Maybe not
Because
yet.
it's pretty
It was like,
complex.
some
But
of
you
these
wanna
towns
buy-
have their soccer teams register on their recreational website, and I was like, I don't want any part of that.
No.
But that would be something different, I feel.
Well,
For
there's
right
packages. I mean, the different places I've looked at, there, I mean, you can buy components, or you can say, all right, you can do this, here's your recreation, Parks and Recreation Department package. Part of it is, when you look at, Hamilton Lanham, and they have they have 15
Right,
fields,
that's,
not 5 fields.
that's myrec.com, they're the same ones at Sherburne, because that's the one that we looked at. That was like $2,800
But they have so many fields.
A
but
year
they're-
or one project?
a year.
Is that a registration or just?
Yeah,
so?
yeah. So I
Well,
think
we
what
got
we
work
were
to
thinking
do.
of just starting with the Google one because it's free, get that up and going, and then eventually, if we wanna substitute that out with
Well,
another
one thing that I've
platform.
asked, I'm hoping with this new proposal, this new building, is to have somebody come in and look at the IT needs of the town
Mhm.
and come up with a strategy to address all that, and this will be included in that.
So I asked, so for Triton, Deb Jones is our IT person. So I'd asked her, what would you recommend? And she said, Google has so much to offer for
Right.
free. She said, they just, and that was her recommendation.
It may be the way to go right now until we get to that next level, when all of a sudden we go, we really can do a lot more. But at least now we're not charged, it's not costing us anything, so again, being fiscally responsible, doing what we need to, and then once we feel like we have
Well, I
more
also
other
think
things.
it gets up our current calendar up
Yeah.
online.
Yes,
right,
which
in
is
the
a lot of
short
people wanna
term,
do.
and
Well,
then-
I mean, we can do that with the software, the application we're currently using. I think the real question is, what do we need? Does Google Docs meet our needs? And if it doesn't, then it doesn't matter if it's cheaper now. We do have money in our budget to do things, right?
So at the next meeting, we can always project it and take a look at the different
Yeah.
programs.
Yep.
Great idea.
Now we have that access to do
So
it.
you mean
Can
we
you
get
send
the
out an
25th?
email
Yes.
with the links?
It's on a Wednesday?
That is
Well, I mean, through-
yes,
It was a different
I'll be
group.
no, it's a Thursday.
I'll be in Florida.
Well, we can always,
Flash, you want,
FaceTime you.
I can click you in.
no, so we can actually set it up on a Skype session. So you could actually, you could come into that.
All right.
Well, can we just
So
do,
we all,
the bubble soccer, is there any conversation on that?
I'd love to have it, I think it's a lot of fun.
Do we want to support it or
Yes.
offer them space?
I would
well, I
love
think,
space.
so, well, the problem here, and this is
I mean,
gonna have
not
to wait
so-
till next week, is
Okay.
because you've got soccer and lacrosse, and there was a question about like who has
Priority?
priority and making field time. So I wanna have them, but we also, Jason was worried about people reserving fields too early, and so that's all part of the bigger conversation. But, yeah, if we can make
If
it
they're,
work.
if they're talking like a once a week, for an hour, then yeah, we could fall that into the open space, we're trying to create our own little block that other people can use it, that's not being used by our current permits. If they're talking about multiple times a week, like another, like them, then we gotta certainly address it.
The sign, I've talked to James about putting the Manterfield sign up. There's conversation about the signage that the Historic Commission was asking about staying off the wall. Remember that?
Yeah.
we're gonna-
They don't want anybody on the wall.
But it may not be on the outside, it may be on the inside where the kids are coming from. And any other questions about signage?
No.
Okay. Septic we can't do. And we took care of GPS and, I asked you to put on the, reserving 3 weekends, like on a Sunday or a Saturday at about 11 o'clock. Maybe 1.5 fields for ultimate disc. We have somebody who's willing to do outreach with about 4,000 people, have them come in. Part of the problem we had this summer is we just didn't have the outreach, and see if there's any momentum to use the fields.
Again,
So what's the question?
Question is, can the Newbury Committee reserve sufficient space for 3 consecutive weeks at the end of April, beginning of May, to host a ultimate disc
How
activity.
much time?
How much time? It will be about 2 hours each time.
And they want a field and a half.
We want to feel, it's not them, it's us.
That's what I'm saying, we give them a field.
It should be doable, because I'm hoping that we're gonna we talked about blocking out
Free time,
on the free time also for rain
yeah.
reschedules.
And this
A lot
is only 3 weeks.
Just real quick, cause then
We gotta go, yeah.
a lot of the cancellation policies that we've been looking at, and rain, there is no cancellation policy. You need to reschedule. So that way there's no money going back and forth and this and
Right.
that. And so it's our responsibility to have block out time so that they can reschedule.
Yep.
So, part of those questions that Jason was asking about.
Yeah, with refunds and all that stuff. And
Less field time rented, I mean,
yeah,
they're.
we're gonna have to block time off that these guys are so used to having all this done, but we're gonna need to make sure everybody has the opportunity to make up games.
Thank you for everything.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Oh,
Yeah.
last best news.
Oh, look at that.
We get an
CO.
occupancy permit?
We now have it.
Yeah.
Can we give it to her?
I have to get into the building or in
Yeah,
the building so
you-
that
you have it.
he can sign off on this, but
Sam?
we have, it's all signed off, but he just needs the actual permit.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn at 9:01.
Second.
Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.